All right, listeners, buckle up because today we're taking a deep dive into meditation, but not the kind you might be used to.
Oh no, definitely not your typical meditation chat.
We're going to explore the ideas of Jiddu Krishnamurti, and to me tell you, he really challenges a lot of what we think we know about meditation.
Yeah, he was known for kind of shaking things up. He argued that all those systems and techniques, the things that a lot of people associate with meditation.
Yeah, like the apps and the guided meditations.
Exactly. Those are actually, he saw those as roadblocks. He even went so far as to compare them to disguised cages.
Disguised cages.
Yeah, like they offer comfort, but ultimately they really limit our exploration of the mind.
Disguised cages, huh? I like that. It's a powerful image. So, okay, if we're ditching the guided meditations and, the whole thing with getting the limbs positioned perfectly and all that, where do we even begin? What does Krishnamurti say meditation actually is?
Well, he believed that meditation is about uncovering something that's already there, not about achieving some, a specific state.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's more about stripping away the layers of what we think meditation should be and allowing our minds to just be.
That sounds kind of paradoxical, doesn't it? We're trying to do something, meditate by essentially doing nothing.
Right.
It makes you wonder if the very act of trying to meditate, of being a meditator, could be a barrier in itself.
You're picking up what he's putting down. That's exactly what Krishnamurti argued, that we fall into this, what he called the meditator trap.
The meditator trap.
The meditator trap, where we get so focused on the process, on improving our technique or whatever, that we just completely miss the point.
Yeah, I can see how that would happen. It's like when you're learning a new skill, right? Say, playing the piano.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You're so focused on hitting the right notes, mastering the technique, that you kind of forget to enjoy the music itself.
Precisely. Krishnamurti believed we should approach meditation with that same sense of open curiosity and non-judgmental awareness that we might bring to just, listening to a beautiful piece of music.
Oh.
It's about just being present with the experience itself, not about, achieving a specific outcome.
So it's not about adding meditation to our to-do list and checking it off once we've lost a certain number of minutes. It's about cultivating a way of being.
Exactly. And that brings us to another point where Krishnamurti really breaks from convention.
Okay.
The role of teachers and external guidance. He was pretty skeptical of relying on, gurus and books and all these ancient teachings.
Interesting.
Because he saw them as potential crutches that could actually hinder our exploration of the mind.
That's interesting, especially considering you're kind of here to help guide us through this deep dive. So he wasn't saying all learning is bad, right? Just that it can be misused in this context.
Exactly. He wasn't anti-learning. He was advocating for a specific type of learning self-discovery that comes from paying attention to our own minds.
Right.
Free from the limitations of these predetermined systems.
It really makes you think about how much of what we believe about meditation comes from outside sources.
Yeah.
Not from our own direct experience. So if we're ditching the systems, the gurus, the techniques, what's left? How do we actually tap into this effortless attention that Krishnamurti's always talking about?
Well, it's not about forcing our minds to be quiet or trying to achieve like some blissful, thought-free state. It's about cultivating an awareness that's present but not absorbed, not fixated on any one thing.
So it's more about noticing our thoughts and feelings without judgment, like watching clouds kind of drift by in the sky.
Yeah.
But how do we develop that kind of awareness? Is it something that just kind of happens naturally, or do we need to, cultivate it?
Well, Krishnamurti believed that this type of awareness, it arises from understanding, from seeing the true nature of our thoughts and emotions.
Okay.
He argued that when we see them for what they are, fleeting, impermanent, they naturally begin to lose their grip on us. It's like seeing the magician's trick.
Oh, right.
The illusion loses its power once we understand how it works.
Okay, so we're letting go of control, ditching the systems, and cultivating effortless attention. But how do we even know if we're doing it right?
Well, Krishnamurti would probably say there is no right way to meditate.
Ah, okay.
It's about shifting our focus from, how to meditate to what is meditation.
Right.
It's a more introspective approach where the real journey is inward, not toward, some external goal.
It sounds like he's encouraging us to become comfortable with uncertainty. With not having all the answers, he was big on questioning, wasn't he? Always pushing people to look deeper, to challenge their assumptions.
Absolutely. For Krishnamurti, the very act of questioning is a form of meditation. It's about cultivating a mind that's curious, open, and willing to explore even the most uncomfortable truths.
This is already making me rethink everything I thought I knew about meditation. So if we're not striving for perfection, relying on gurus, or obsessing over techniques, what exactly are we do? What does this effortless attention actually look like in practice? I'm eager to hear more about that.
Well, that's a great place to pick up in our next segment. We'll delve deeper into Krishnamurti's concept of effortless attention and explore how it can be cultivated in our daily lives.
Stay tuned. This deep dive is just getting started. All right, so we've tossed out the rule book on meditation. No more rigid techniques, no gurus, and definitely no striving for some perfect meditative state. So where do we even, go from here? How do we actually put this effortless attention into practice?
It's simpler than you might think, but like a lot of things that are worthwhile, it really requires a shift in perspective.
Okay.
Instead of trying to force your mind to be quiet, you're just learning to observe it.
So I'm picturing myself sitting there and, thoughts are swirling around like a hurricane in my mind. What exactly am I observing?
You're becoming aware of those thoughts? Yeah, but also your feelings, your bodily sensations, even the subtle shifts in your energy. It's about becoming familiar with, your own internal landscape,
So it's not about emptying the mind or reaching some Zen-like blank slate. It's more about becoming a witness to that constant flow of thoughts and feelings?
Exactly. You're not trying to stop the flow, you're just noticing it. Krishnamurti often used the analogy of watching a river.
Okay.
You wouldn't try to stop the river from flowing, would you?
No.
You just observe its currents and its eddies and its changing nature.
Right. That's a helpful image. So I'm not judging my thoughts. I'm not labeling them as good or bad. I'm not trying to push them away or cling to them. I'm just noticing them as they kind of come and go.
Yeah, you're getting it. And as you become more familiar with your own internal river, you might start to notice certain patterns. Maybe you tend to get swept away by worries about the future, or maybe you get stuck in, these loops of self-criticism. The key is to just observe these patterns without judgment.
That makes me think about those moments when I'm driving and suddenly realize I haven't been paying attention to the road for the last few miles. My mind was off somewhere else entirely.
That's a perfect example. In those moments, we're not present with the experience of driving. We're, lost in thought. Krishnamurti's approach to meditation is about cultivating a kind of awareness that prevents us from getting so lost in our thoughts that we miss out on life itself.
Okay, so I think I'm starting to get this, conceptually, but how does this translate into my daily life? I can't exactly sit by the river all day observing my thoughts.
Yeah, it's not about finding a special time or place to meditate. It's about bringing that same quality of attention to everything you do, whether you're washing dishes, walking the dog, having conversation with a friend.
So it's integrating that awareness into the fabric of my life, not compartmentalizing it as something I do for 20 minutes in the morning and then forget about it.
You're exactly right. It's about becoming more present in each moment, no matter what you're doing. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more you practice this kind of effortless attention, the more stillness you'll find.
Wait, so the key to stillness isn't to try to be still?
Krishnamurti believed that true stillness arises not from force or effort, but from understanding. As we see the true nature of our thoughts, their impermanence, their lack of solidity, they naturally begin to quiet down.
That makes sense. It's like when you're trying to fall asleep, and the more you try, the more awake you become. But when you let go of the effort, sleep just comes naturally.
Precisely. It's about surrendering to the present moment rather than fighting against it. And as we surrender, we open ourselves up to a deeper experience of stillness and peace.
This is definitely challenging some of my preconceived notions about meditation. It's not about reaching some blissful state or silencing the mind completely. It's about cultivating a deep awareness of what is, without judgment or resistance.
And that awareness, that willingness to simply observe, that's the foundation of true freedom.
Freedom. We haven't really talked about freedom. What did Krishnamurti have to say about that? How does this all tie back to freedom?
That's a great question and a perfect segue into our next section, where we'll explore how this kind of effortless attention, this radical acceptance of what is, leads to a profound sense of inner freedom, a freedom that's not dependent on external circumstances or achievements.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Stay with us as we continue to unpack Krishnamurti's unique perspective on meditation. This deep dive is far from over. So we've talked about ditching the dogma, we've talked about embracing this effortless attention and becoming observers of our own minds. But we haven't really explored this idea of freedom. What did Krishnamurti actually mean by freedom when he was talking about meditation?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting, because for Krishnamurti, freedom wasn't about achieving some external goal. or escaping from, our circumstances. It was about breaking free from the limitations of our own minds.
So it's not about winning the lottery or quitting your job and moving to some tropical island. It's something more internal, more fundamental.
Exactly. He believed we become imprisoned by our own beliefs and fears and desires. We get caught in these cycles of, craving and aversion, constantly chasing after what we want, pushing away what we don't want.
It's like we're on a hamster wheel, right? Just running and running, but never actually getting anywhere. We think freedom is about changing our external reality, but what Krishnamurti's saying is it's about changing our internal reality.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. He argued that true freedom comes from understanding the nature of our own minds. Like when we actually see how our thoughts and emotions create suffering, then we can start to kind of loosen their grip on us.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? How do we break free from these mental patterns that keep us feeling so trapped?
Well, it starts with that same effortless attention we've been talking about. As we become more aware of our thoughts and feelings, we start to see them for what they are. They're fleeting, they're impermanent, and ultimately, they're not who we truly are.
It's like realizing that the voice in your head that's constantly criticizing you or worrying about the future, it isn't the real you. It's just a thought, a pattern that we've learned to identify with.
Exactly. And once we see that, then we can start to create some space between ourselves and those thoughts. We can choose not to believe them, not to let them, dictate our actions and emotions.
So it's not about the silencing those thoughts completely or pretending they don't exist. It's about recognizing that they don't have the power to define us.
You got it. Krishnamurti believed that true freedom, it lies in that space between stimulus and response.
Oh, okay.
It's in that pause, that moment of awareness where we have the power to choose how we react, how we experience the world.
This is starting to sound a lot like what people call mindfulness, this ability to be present with what is without judgment or resistance.
Yeah, you could say that. Krishnamurti's teachings definitely share some similarities with mindfulness practices, but for him, mindfulness wasn't just a technique, it was like a way of life.
So It's not something you do for 10 minutes in the morning and then forget about it. It's about cultivating this awareness in every aspect of your life.
Precisely. And the more we practice this kind of awareness, the more we start to experience that sense of freedom he talked about. We're no longer at the mercy of our thoughts and emotions. We become more present, more responsive, more alive to the beauty and the richness of life itself.
This is really making me rethink my whole approach to meditation, to personal growth. It's not about achieving some perfect state of enlightenment or silencing the mind completely. It's about embracing the messiness of being human with all its, ups and downs and finding freedom within that experience.
And that's the beauty of Krishnamurti's teachings. They're not offering us a set of rules to follow or a destination to reach. They're inviting us to embark on a lifelong journey of self-discovery, a journey that leads us back to our own innate wisdom and freedom.
So if every system is a cage, like he suggests, how do you define freedom in the context of meditation?
For me, it's about recognizing that spaciousness within myself, that stillness that's always there beneath the surface of, all the thoughts and emotions. It's about remembering that I am not my thoughts, I am not my feelings, I am something much vaster, something much more free.
That's a beautiful way to put this, and I think that's a perfect note to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Jiddu Krishnamurti. We hope this has inspired you to question your assumptions, explore your own mind, and discover the freedom that lies within.